Hi, and welcome to the Freedom Law Group Law Library. In this video, we'll be discussing the all-important topic of jurisdiction. There are several reasons why Americans have difficulty believing they can legally opt out of the federal income tax system, and among those reasons is a profound misunderstanding of the laws themselves. Virtually no one has ever read the federal tax laws from start to finish. An overwhelming majority of people don't even know where to find these laws or what they are officially called. This lack of knowledge has led to widespread generational miseducation about tax obligations, reinforced by years of societal conditioning. It's no wonder so many people find it difficult to believe they were never legally required to file or pay federal income taxes. Another key reason for this confusion is the deliberate use of terms like state and United States in Title 26 of the Tax Code. Most Americans naturally assume these terms refer to the 50 states of the Union, but they don't. The statutory definitions reveal a much narrower scope. This is where the deception begins. Title 26 of the United States Code, the section of federal law governing income taxes, defines the terms state and United States in a way that has misled generations of Americans. According to Title 26, Section 7701(a)(10), the term state includes only the District of Columbia. Similarly, Section 7701(a)(9) defines United States as the District of Columbia and its territories, not the 50 states of the Union. This is a crucial distinction, as the jurisdiction of federal income tax laws applies exclusively to the District of Columbia and those working for or residing in federal territories, not to the average American living and working in one of the 50 states. Understanding jurisdiction and how these terms are defined is the first step to unraveling the federal income tax system. If more people understood how Congress crafted these laws, intentionally using semantic deceit to create the appearance of universality, they would have no doubt about their ability to safely and legally opt out of the system. Now, let's dive deeper into this critical topic and explore how jurisdiction, statutory definitions, and the tax code itself all come together to reveal the truth about your legal relationship to the federal income tax system. Jurisdiction is one of the most misunderstood yet crucial legal concepts in America. At its core, jurisdiction refers to the legal authority a government or agency has to enforce its laws within a specific area or over specific people. Most Americans operate under the assumption that the laws of the federal government apply equally everywhere within the United States. However, this assumption overlooks a critical distinction. There are two separate and distinct jurisdictions in the United States: the jurisdiction of the 50 states of the Union and the jurisdiction of Washington, D.C. To understand this distinction, let's begin with a fundamental question: what is jurisdiction? Jurisdiction is the authority granted to a government to legislate, regulate, and enforce laws. It is always confined to specific geographic boundaries or specific groups of people. For example, a police officer in Colorado cannot enforce Colorado law in California. Their authority ends at the state line. Similarly, Washington, D.C., the seat of the federal government, has its own jurisdiction that is distinct from the 50 states of the Union. This difference is not just theoretical, it has been consistently addressed and upheld by the courts throughout American history. One of the earliest cases to tackle this issue was United States v. Bevins in 1818, where the U.S. Supreme Court made it clear that federal jurisdiction does not extend into the 50 states unless explicitly authorized by the Constitution. This principle was reiterated in Foley Brothers, Inc. v. Filardo in 1949, where the court stated, "The canon of construction which teaches that legislation of Congress, unless a contrary intent appears, is meant to apply only within the territorial jurisdiction of the United States." So, what does this mean in practical terms? The laws of Congress, unless explicitly extended, are confined to the territorial jurisdiction of Washington, D.C., and U.S. territories such as Guam and Puerto Rico. This principle forms the foundation of our discussion on federal income tax. The 50 states of the Union, collectively known as the Constitutional Republic, represent the jurisdiction where the Constitution is fully operational. Here, American nationals, those born or naturalized in one of the 50 states, or to a parent who was, are protected by the Constitution, including Article 1, Section 9, Clause 4, which prohibits direct taxes on individuals unless they are apportioned based on population. On the other hand, Washington, D.C., represents a separate jurisdiction where Congress exercises exclusive legislative authority. This jurisdiction includes not only the geographic area of D.C. but also the legislative jurisdiction of the federal government. Within this jurisdiction, Congress can pass laws that do not require the same constitutional limitations as those within the 50 states. Understanding the statutory definitions of state and United States in the federal income tax laws is critical. Knowing that direct taxes like the federal income tax directly violated the original Constitution and were even struck down as unconstitutional in Pollock v. Farmers Loan and Trust Company in 1895, Congress had to craft laws that appeared constitutional while quietly limiting their application. By using familiar terms like state and United States, lawmakers created the illusion that the federal income tax applied universally across the 50 states. In reality, these terms refer only to the jurisdiction of Washington, D.C., and its territories, not the 50 states of the United States of America. This linguistic sleight of hand caused millions of Americans to believe they were legally obligated to file and pay federal income taxes, even though no such obligation existed. As Long v. Rasmussen, 1922, confirmed, they are neither of the subject nor of the object of the revenue laws. Congress does not assume to deal with them. Before filing a tax return, American nationals were protected by the Constitution and had no legal obligation to pay federal income taxes. By signing what we refer to as the 1040 confession form, however, they voluntarily entered the jurisdiction of Washington, D.C., and became subject to its tax laws. This understanding of jurisdiction is further reinforced by the legislative intent of the 16th Amendment, which introduced the federal income tax. When President William H. Taft proposed the amendment in 1909, he made it clear that the tax was intended to apply within the jurisdiction of the federal government. In his message to Congress, Taft stated, "I therefore recommend to the Congress that both houses, by a 2/3 vote, shall propose an amendment to the Constitution conferring the power to levy an income tax upon the national government without apportionment among the states in proportion to population." Notice the distinction. Taft explicitly referred to the national government and not the states of the Union. This aligns with the Supreme Court's decision in Pollock, which held that a direct tax imposed on the states without apportionment was unconstitutional. In short, the 16th Amendment allowed the federal government to levy an income tax within its own jurisdiction, Washington, D.C., and its territories, but it did not grant the federal government authority to impose such a tax within the 50 states without apportionment. Despite these legal limitations, millions of Americans in the 50 states have voluntarily subjected themselves to federal income tax laws. How did this happen? Through a process of semantic deceit, ignorance, and voluntary compliance. By signing a tax form, Americans unknowingly declared themselves U.S. individuals or U.S. persons under the legal definitions in Title 26. This act placed them under the jurisdiction of Washington, D.C., making them liable for federal income taxes. Understanding jurisdiction is crucial for making informed decisions about your legal obligations. It is not just about geography but about legal authority and consent. The federal government cannot force you into its jurisdiction, it can only invite you. By signing the 1040 confession form, you accept that invitation. By understanding jurisdiction, you can choose whether to accept it or not. For those who have already filed and wish to reclaim their constitutional protections, there is a legal remedy. The law allows you to revoke your election to be treated as a taxpayer and return to the jurisdiction of the 50 states, where the Constitution shields you from direct taxation without apportionment. It's time to understand the power of jurisdiction and the choices it gives you. The decision is yours. Choose wisely. If you're ready to opt out of the federal income tax system forever and remove yourself from the jurisdiction of the United States, meaning the District of Columbia, click the link below this video to get started.